This week on Spaventoso Speculates, I bring you 17 artifact commander cards that you should be buying and playing. If you don't want to listen to me talk, just skip to the end. There is a cheat sheet starting off at number 1, Bonder's Ornament. It's an artifact for 3 colorless, tap, add 1 mana of any color. Pay 4, tap. Each player who controls a permanent named Bonder's Ornament draws a card. Right now, this is about a quarter, and it is used in 0.20% of decks. I think maybe a 4 or 5 color deck might have a good home for this one, and maybe having some way to be able to consistently tap it to draw a card would get the most benefit out of this one. Some of the commanders that utilize this card, you can see Ovica, Gavi, even Karn, Legacy Reforged. Gonna see a lot of Karn on this list today. Number 2, Credit Voucher. 2 colorless for an artifact. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice Credit Voucher, shuffle any number of cards from your hand into your library, then draw that many cards. This is under $1 right now. Was a little bit higher than that a few years ago, used in 0.03% of decks. The foil is almost $11. I wouldn't suggest picking up any of those, but grabbing a couple of these, maybe throw in some of your decks that need a little bit of card draw, always late in the game. You can only bluff so many cards in your hand. If you got a bunch of extra lands, or if you maybe Cyclonic Rift a bunch of stuff back to your hand, you can filter those cards and maybe dig for better things. These are some of the commanders that utilize it. I like it in Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. But again, I think since it's an artifact, it should be able to fit in anything, especially super casual stuff that just needs some card draw. Might be a good option for you. Card number 3, Culling Dais. Tap, sacrifice a creature, put a charge counter on Culling Dais. Pay 1, sacrifice Culling Dais, draw a card for each charge counter on Culling Dais. That's under 30 cents for this uncommon. Under $1 for the foil. It is trending up, and it's a consistent way for a sacrifice outlet, especially if you proliferate or can move counters around. Can really draw a lot of cards if this sticks around on the table. Some of the commanders that utilize this: the Jolly Balloon Man. Yeah, a bunch of multicolored stuff, bunch of artifact stuff. I think might be good. I'd be looking at the foil version of this one myself. Next up, we have Farsight Mask 5 for an artifact that says whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you, if Farsight Mask is untapped, you may draw a card. It's going to average under 40 cents. The foil $1.36 or so. This one's trending upward as well over the past couple of years. Used in 0.05% of decks now. I think this is a great colorless way to consistently draw cards. I think it did have this maybe 1 reprint, not too many reprints. 5 might seem like a lot, but just think throughout the course of a Magic game, how many times sources your opponent's controlling are dealing damage to you, and how many cards you might be able to draw off of this card. And it might get tapped somehow, but most of the time it's going to be untapped. Some of the commanders that are utilizing this: Bosch Iron Golem, Karn Silver Golem, some of the artifact commanders, monocolored commanders that might not have access to a lot of card draw are best utilizing this. Number 5, Infiltration Lens. 1 colorless for an artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature becomes blocked by a creature, you may draw 2 cards. Equip 1. This is about $1.40 for an uncommon. And then the foil is $6.80, trending up. Used in almost 0.50% of commander decks on EDH Rec. And for this low cost, you can draw 2 cards, or maybe sneak a guy in if your opponent doesn't want you to draw 2 cards. It's reusable, and I think it can slot into a lot of different variety of decks. As you can see, these are the decks that utilize it the most. Slicer Hired Muscle, Wolverine, I think are good options. But again, any kind of deck that might need an equipment or need some card draw, I think this would be a good card to have around, a couple of copies in your collection. Number 6, Life Crafter's Bestiary. It's an artifact for 3 colorless. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay green. If you do, draw a card. About 50 cents average right now. Was a little bit more expensive a couple years back. Foil version, $2.62. I think I picked up a foil copy for a little bit more than that a little while back. Used in 3.53% of decks, which is quite a lot, but I feel like just about any green-centric deck, green-heavy deck is going to use this. Green, maybe 2 colors, 3 colors that are playing a lot of creatures are going to get good use out of this, even if it's just to scry at the beginning of your upkeep to make sure you have a good chance of getting something good. But if you have a lot of mana, especially maybe if you're playing some of these commanders, you might be able to draw quite a few cards. I like it in the elf decks especially. Ayula Finn also making great use out of this. And on to card number 7, Lodestone Bauble. This one's an old one. Pay 1 and tap, sacrifice it to put up to 4 basic lands from any player's graveyard on top of his or her library in any order. And then that player will draw a card at the beginning of your next turn's upkeep. Most of the time, you're probably going to want to do this to yourself. But the reason I put this on this list is because a couple of years ago, it did spike to almost $15. It's back down to about $3. So now would be a good time to snag some of these, especially if you like playing basic land, or if another commander comes around that might make really good use out of 0-drop artifacts. Like Narset here, she's using it. Flubs, Joyra, all these different commanders are making use out of this card, so be sure to pick this one up before the price spikes again. Moving right along to card number 8, Mangara's Tome. For 5 colorless mana, you get an artifact that says when Mangara's Tomb enters, search your library and choose 5 cards. Shuffle those cards, put them face down under the tomb. Shuffle your library afterwards. If you lose control of the tomb, remove all the cards under it from the game. Pay 2, and instead of drawing a card, you can put the top card from under the tomb in your hand. It is a little hidden sort of tutor. It's colorless. And maybe people are afraid of it getting destroyed and then you lose your 5 best cards. Or maybe you've never seen this card. But apparently people have, because in 2021, 2022, it spiked just like the previous card, between $10 and $15. It's back down to at $2.25 or so. That would be because it's on the reserve list, I imagine, and people are hoarding copies. So you should grab some of these before it spikes again. These commanders are the ones best making use. Both the Karns here, a couple other artifact commanders, even some Magda players are testing it out. On to card number 9, Mask of Memory. It is used in 1.46% of decks. 50 cents. Foil is $7.40. And it's 2 colorless for an artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card, equip 1. This is going to be good not only for Madness decks to give you a little Madness outlet, but just to filter for cards that you need. Maybe you hold on to a lot of lands and you're just pitching lands or throwing stuff in your graveyard that you can make use out of in the graveyard. Here are some of the commanders again. We see Slicer, Giada, And I'm sure just about any deck that needs some card draw and is not afraid of playing some equipment, not even necessarily an equipment-based commander, can make use out of this. If you can get that foil version for under $4, $5, $6, $7, I think you're doing pretty good. Card number 10, Roadside Reliquary. This one's not an artifact, but it's my list. I'm going to do what I want. It's kind of artifact adjacent. And especially with that foil under 50 cents, I'd be looking to snag some of these. It's a land, tap add colorless, which is fine if you're playing artifact kind of colorless strategy anyway. But pay 2 and tap sacrifice Roadside Reliquary to draw a card if you control an artifact, and then draw a card if you control an enchantment. And I think this works best if you might be able to recoup the land multiple times, maybe Life from the Loam, or some other creature or artifact that lets you play lands from your graveyard. Card's trending down right now, and I'd be looking to target that foil, maybe pick up a couple of copies for the event that the right commander comes along. Here are the commanders that are utilizing it. But again, I mean, it's colorless as long as you're playing some artifacts and some enchantments, which many commander decks are. I think you can make great use out of it. Card 11, Rogue's Gloves. It is an artifact equipment to colorless. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Equip 2. It's kind of a worse effect from some of the other equipment we've seen already, but you need that consistency. You might want to consider Rogue's Gloves as well. It is under 50 cents for a regular version, under $2 for a foil. I'd maybe be looking at some foils here for this one. The artifacts especially look nice and shiny, all foiled up. And the commanders that are using this, Slicer again, Giada, Runor, Battlehammer. Anyone that likes equipment, this is going to be an easy, cheap equipment to slot in there and draw you, hopefully, lots of cards. Card number 12, Seer's Sundial. 4 colorless for an artifact landfall. Whenever a land enters under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. 40 cents for a rare. $3.14 for a foil. Maybe a little bit more than I want to pay. But in 0.46% of decks on EDH Rec. If you are playing a lot of sack lands, land-based strategies, or you have some way to recur your lands, I think this is going to be a great addition. Then you'll have maybe pick up a couple of copies and wait for that new shiny commander to be printed. That has to deal with landfall. Azusa, Omath. Commanders like that. Looks like a lot of green commanders like this, because they're probably running lots of ramp to make use of the landfall triggers. Card number 13, Serum Tank. At about a quarter, this card for 3 colorless will get you a few cards probably throughout the course of the game. It's used in 0.01% of decks. Whenever Serum Tank or another artifact enters, put a charge counter on Serum Tank, pay 3, tap, remove a charge counter from Serum Tank, draw a card. Foil under $1. I think if you can snag them for around $1, that might be good, considering this card's kind of old. It's not super old, but might not be too many foil copies running around. I'm not a huge fan of the art. Kind of looks like maybe more of a Yu-Gi-Oh card, but I think it can be useful if you have a way to proliferate, if you're playing a bunch of artifacts, a way to move counters around. Here's some of the commanders. Atraxa, it's proliferating. Karn Silver Golem, and a couple other artifact commanders. And you don't need a whole lot of artifacts to make use out of this, but you do need to plan around it a little bit. So I think maybe picking up some copies now, hoping that a good commander comes out to abuse a card like this, and then the card might spike. Card number 14, Symmetry Matrix. Pay 4 colorless for an artifact. It says, whenever a creature with power equal to its toughness enters under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. That isn't too bad of a constriction to work around. And for just 1 colorless, I think you can slot into a lot of decks and draw you a lot of cards over the course of the game. The foil, 37 cents. I think I would pick up a couple of copies of that. It's non-common, so there's probably a lot running around. But check some bulk bins. Might be able to find some deals at some stores, grab a couple of play sets, and then slot them into decks when you don't know what other kind of card draw to put in there. Here's some of the commanders that utilize it. Krenko Mob Boss. He's going to be adding a lot of 1/1s, and you might be drawing a lot of cards. General Pharaoh's Rockerick. I think I need to put one of these in my version of his deck. Mr. House, President and CEO, all of these are good options, but if you take a look at the power and toughness of the creatures in your decks, you might find that this card can have a home in your deck too. Getting to the end of the list here, just a few more. Number 15, Tome of the Guild Pack. 5 colorless artifact. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, draw a card, tap, add 1 mana of any color. That's a little pricey for a mana rock, but at about 70 cents, about $3.50 for a foil, I think it's a good investment for multicolored commanders. Many commanders are running multicolored spells. Some of the best spells are multiple colors, and there will be more multicolored spells and more commanders that are multicolored that can make use out of this. Some of the commanders on EDH Rec that are making use out of this, like Niven Mizzet Supreme, it's a nice one. Omath Locus of All. I think these are all good options, especially if you plan on running multicolored spells. This is going to get you good value over the course of the game. Number 16, Vexing Bauble. 1 colorless artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, to counter that spell, pay 1 tap, sacrifice Vexing Bauble, draw a card. This might be better at the higher end tables. Bracket 5. It got banned in Legacy, so that's why we see that huge price decrease. And the foil's under $2. And I think this is a good option. It might be more of a meta call, but as more spells that are free get printed, this card's value is going to increase, especially if you have a lot of players that like to play those free spells. This one's going to catch them off guard, and then maybe if it doesn't do anything, it'll draw you a card. Some of the commanders that use this: Magda, Slicer again, Winona Joiner Forces. I see like a couple of blue commanders. I might hit some of their spells, but the red ones there, they might not have a lot of options and want to fight against the free spells. And our last card on the list, card number 17, Well of Knowledge. Pay 3 colorless, you get an artifact. Any player may pay 2 during his or her draw phase to draw a card. Players may use this ability as many times as they choose. This is another reserve list card that spiked over $10, maybe about $15 in the past. It's under $3 now. So if you wanted to build a friendship deck, a hand-holding deck, this would be a card you'd want to target. Used in 0.03% of decks, probably because they don't want to give that advantage to their opponents. But if you do want to give that advantage to your opponents, or if you ramp really heavy and can take more advantage than your opponents, this would be a good card draw card for you. Some of the commanders that utilize it are seen here. And that is my list of artifact cards you should be buying and maybe playing for Commander. Let me know in the comments if you use any of these cards or if there are any that you suggest that I buy for my Commander decks. As always, thanks for watching. Take a look at the playlist for similar videos. And here is the cheat sheet.